All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Beth McCoy, proud superintendent of the Dover-Sherborn schools, and I'm also a parent. I have an 8th grader and 10th grader that I too am trying to figure out how to prepare them for the future. We are here tonight live, and we also have DSC TV recording it for those who aren't able to join us. We'll be able to share the recording out with our community, and I'm sure that our teachers are probably going to use pieces of this as well as our guidance counselors in working with students, talking about what they want to do after Dover-Sherborn. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. One of my favorite quotes as part of the invitation is that we are preparing our students for jobs that don't yet exist, having to use skills and tools that we don't yet know what they are to solve problems that may not have already occurred. So the world is changing, as you know. In 2019, we had a group of students, parents, teachers, community members come together and think about what do our students need for success in college, career, and life. And we created the Porch to Graduate, which I know you all are familiar with. Through that process, we had an industry panel 5 years ago. I can't believe it was 5 years already. And we brought together community members from all different fields and said, tell us how you got to where you are, how you're seeing your job change in front of you, and how you foresee it changing in 5 or 10 years. It was such a rich conversation. It was one of the most memorable experiences I've had in my 11 years here in the district. So we're excited to revisit these questions. Since 2019, we've had a pandemic. We now sometimes work from home. We've also had a huge influx of AI technology, which has changed things too. I'm sure we'll hear about that tonight. So it'd be interesting to see how the conversation this evening evolves. So thank you to our panelists for being here. I'd like to introduce our 2 student moderators. We have Julia Dan and Debbie Faro, who are in charge this evening, and they will guide you through all of the questions. And thank you again for being here.
So if everyone would like to introduce yourself with your name, your title, and your connection to the F.
So my name is Benoît Binet. I moved to the US 2 years ago. As you will pick up with my French accent, I am French. I work in the industrial environment. I am a plant manager, so meaning I'm here by my company. It's a French company, a large one. We have 28,000 people worldwide, and I'm here to start a new plant from scratch. So when I arrived, there was nothing, and now we produce electrical cables. I have 3 kids. One is 11, he's in grade 6, and I have 2 twins in grade 4.
Great. Hi everybody, my name is Ryan Devon. I am a parent of 4 boys. I have one of them here with me today, Reeves, who is a junior. I have a son who is a sophomore, one in 8th grade and one in 6th grade as well. My title is the Chief Excitement Officer. That's literally what my signature says on my email. And I'm in the industry of, I tell people I'm an entrepreneur, which can be very wide definition of what that is. But I'm in the business of family fitness and fun. Really, that's what I do for a living. I try to put smiles on people's faces.
Hi, I'm Savannah Eisen. I have 2 daughters, Dover, one in 6th grade and one in 4th grade also. That's your grade. And I'm a speech and language pathologist. I have my own company, Penguin Speech, so I have its private services. And
excellent. I'm David Green. Who can guess where I'm from?
Yes, check.
After 10 words, a bit risky, I know.
Sure.
I'm English, right? I came here 30 odd years ago, so I'm half American these days. Married an American woman, we have 3 kids together. We live in Dover. If any of you know Sally Green, probably not. She graduated in 2017. Jack graduated in 2020, and Laura is currently a junior. I am now twice retired, so it didn't work the first time, went back to work and I retired again. So I'm really kind of like, well, I feel like an entrepreneur. Most of my career was in biotechnology, so I actually founded 2 different companies. I took both of them public, and I was chief executive of both companies. And one makes scientific instruments that are used mostly by biotech companies in the drug discovery, research and development process. And the other one is actually a biotechnology drug that uses stem cells from the patient to treat and hopefully cure an awful disease called esophageal cancer, which is cancer of the throat where you swallow food. That product is currently in clinical trials. It's only taken 15 years to get this far at $100 million. And it'll probably take another $20 to $30 million and another 5 years to hopefully get FDA approval and bring the product to market.
I'm Stephanie Mitchell. I've spent over 2 decades in the art world. Majority of my time was spent in New York City at institutions including the Whitney Museum of Art and their curatorial department, at the Drawing Center. I came up to Massachusetts briefly to study the history of art at Williams and went back to New York City, worked on the private side, worked in kind of the different art worlds, if you will. Fell in love, moved to Houston, where I ran a multidisciplinary contemporary art center for 6 years before we moved back here with our young family. And I am currently on sabbatical. I hadn't thought of the word retired, but I might think of myself that way. I am currently preparing to re-enter the workforce. I sit on several boards and subcommittees advising artists and institutions in Texas and also Massachusetts. I have one daughter, Chickering. We live in Dover. She's in 2nd grade, and we have a 3- and a 4-year-old who will enter the system in 2 years.
Hi everyone, my name is Ramona Nee. I have one daughter who is also a junior and friends with Laura, Yasmin. She's got her wisdom teeth out today, so she's sitting at home and she's very grumpy, but she's a junior. We live in Sherborn, and I am a corporate lawyer. I work for a firm called Weil Gotschall, which is a global law firm, and I don't have as cool a title as Chief Excitement Officer, but I don't think many lawyers do, unfortunately, but I do wear a lot of hats at the firm. So I'm the managing partner of the Boston office, I'm the co-head of US private equity nationally, and then I sit on the management committee for the firm globally. I've been there for 22 years.
I'm Kathy Tao. I've been in Dover with my family for about 2.5 years. I have twin 8-year-old boys who are in 2nd grade at Chickering. We have kind of moved around the world, Germany, Singapore, and now we've found our home in Massachusetts and have settled in nicely. I have spent actually the last 25 years as a mechanical engineer working in the disk drive industry, working on modeling of mechanical systems, but I've actually just changed jobs. So the past 8 months, I've been a content developer actually for MathWorks. So we're producing a lot of online courses for professional upskilling and development, mostly concentrated in AI and how AI can help engineers, researchers, and scientists do their work better.
I'm Patrick Vaughn. I graduated in 2020. I'm a commercial plumber for the union in Boston. We do a lot of hospitals and lab projects around that area. I don't have quite the title anybody next to me has, but I do have charge over my 18-year-old cousin at work. She's running the family trade. And yeah, I graduated in 2020. That's about it.
I'm Elizabeth Willems. I'm a clinical psychologist. I have a private practice that is based in Boston on Thursdays and online for the rest of the time, partially in the US, partially in Mexico. We moved to Dover about a year and a half ago, or 2 years now, from Mexico City after being there for about 10 years. My kids are in 2nd and 4th, and so they grew up there. Now they're growing up here. And so, yeah, going back to what I do. So in my practice, I offer therapy, so counseling, and do testing, so like academic, intellectual, neuropsychological testing. I do a little bit of writing when I can, and
I also supervise students who also want to become, or who are working as therapists as part of their master's or doctoral programs. So I supervise them online so far.
And Ms. Mignon, would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Good. Hi everyone. My name is Kimberly Grand. I am actually Hispanic from Honduras, Central America. I've been working as a family advocate at Horizons for Homeless Children, and I really love my job. What I do is to help. I have a caseload of about 27 parents who, about 90% are immigrant. I have a couple who are in asylum. And my goal is to be able to help them. In the meantime, they're waiting for an apartment or a home for their kids as well, to work with the parent as a coach, helping them, you know, if they don't know any English, find out what English classes they can be able to enroll in, or any computer classes, anything that can help them with job skills for when they get their legal status. I also have with a work permit too, but you know, he needs English, so it's so important. Then the difference that I'm making in my job is like, it's really nice. It's definitely amazing, you know, as a family advocate. So yeah, and also resource connector.
Thank you. Thank you, I already started, but you want to tell us about your professions, like what current roles you have and responsibilities you have to take, like why you chose to go to these fields and how you got there?
Why did I get there? Well, I guess I love industry. I wanted to work since I was a kid, and I grew up in the Alps, not far from Switzerland in Italy. It was a small town, and there were old buildings that used to be big industrial sites. And I knew I wanted to do that. Don't ask me why really, but that was my stuff. I like in the industry, you have products you can touch. And I believe that when you're in the plant, you've got human bonds you create that have never felt in other industries. And that's where I feel good. So I believe the industry for many years had not such a great image, like, you know, dark places with, you know, a lot of smoke, and you know, we all have this cliche. I believe that you have very interesting jobs, very larger, much larger things to cover, to do, to investigate, to create that you would imagine at first. And I have been very surprised since I started working 16 years ago, that how large the scope was of what I had to do. It's my 9th job in 16 years. In 5 countries, and that's just, you know, I feel like I can discover things every day.
So how did I get here? I'm not even sure. But I started off similar to you. I wouldn't use the word industry, but I wanted to be in business and real estate. I went to school, Boston College for finance, and got into banking and real estate out of college. And I did that with 10 years in banking and 5 years in a private equity company. And back in the financial crisis of 2008, I was trying to figure out, what am I going to do in my next career? And my father recommended that I read a book called The E-Myth Revisited, which is a book about what's it like to be an entrepreneur. And what the book talks about is the idea that, and it's called the E-Myth because what most people think an entrepreneur is versus what an entrepreneur really is they're probably two different things. I knew I wanted to do something with kids. I've always loved kids. And at the time, if you can imagine somebody who has a young family, I think at the time I may have had 2 children, and very young children. In fact, Reeves, who's here, was a baby, going to my gym in Medfield. And that particular business was for sale. I ended up purchasing the business in, I think it was 2011, 2012. And I decided, that this is something I wanted to explore more about. So I actually had a private equity job in Boston, downtown Boston, in New York, in Dallas. But I started to pick up franchise businesses out of my children's fitness center. And over time, I grew and expanded. Today, we have over 500 employees in 4 different states, and we have 22 operating companies. We own tennis clubs, we own children's fitness gyms, launch entertainment park. I'll get you guys some passes here. And I knew I wanted to do something where it just really felt good. And not to say that what I was doing before didn't, but I don't feel like what I do is work. I feel really privileged for the fact that I get up every day and I go to work with a smile, and all I try to do every day is how do I advance my company 1% forward every single day. And I work a lot with people. Like, my job is all about coaching. Like, Devin, you know me as a coach. Jack, you know me as a coach. Reeves, you know me as a coach. I coach soccer. I've coached for years. I coach at the high school right now, the JV soccer team for boys. But in my day job, I'm also a coach, and I coach my inner team. Everything from marketing and development, finance, HR. That's my role. That's what I do every day. And it fills me with joy. Somebody else said they love what they do. I presume all of us up here probably love what we do, or we wouldn't be here at whatever time it is talking to you all. So.
The question was, how did I end up where I am? Okay. So, growing up, I had a best friend who had a cousin, and we all grew up together, who had special needs. And I always was really fascinated by all the therapies that she went through, and the mass positive improvement and achieving her goals. It was really a wonderful experience to see, and I knew right from the bat that that's something I wanted to tap into, but I wasn't quite sure where, because it's such a broad area of how you can provide services. Then, backtracking a little bit, I'm Israeli, so when we came to the States, Florida, I didn't speak English. So a friend of my aunt's was a speech pathologist, and she taught me English. And I till this day, I'm still connected to her, I love her. And between that passion that I had with my best friend's family member and what they went through, and then knowing my mentor now, that this is what I wanted to do. And while I was in high school, they offered many different programs. I'm not quite sure how it's done here. And I was able to get my CPA, which is Child Development Associate, and so that I could work with in a preschool, so I can learn about child development, and then off to college. But that's how I ended up. And then I went to school, went to work for someone who was a speech pathologist, and then I had young kids, and I was like, I want to make my own schedule. I'm licensed in 5 states. I do online in person, and it allowed me the flexibility to really help and take control as to really delving in there and helping families, and I do advocacy work for them as well. So that's kind of.
So it seems to me there's a lot of luck involved here, okay? I mean, no one here is telling the story. Maybe you guys all knew what you wanted to do at 17, and there's like a railroad track heading for the horizon, and it just went on and on and on. Not so far, and not with me, okay? I'm a physicist by training. My undergraduate is physics. So I'm a scientist by training. Most people who go to biotechnology, where I spent most of my career, are either doctors or they're PhD biologists. I'm neither, right? I came to America to do an MBA, went to Harvard Business School. That's where I met my wife, and 3 children, etc. So I came into biotech from the finance side, not from the medical side or the scientific side, which is very unusual. And it all came about a complete serendipity. My wife was working with a little company. We were now married, and the company was going bankrupt. I said, I went to Harvard Business School, I know how to write a business plan, so I wrote a business plan. And long story short, we raised the venture capital money to buy the company out and give it new management, and we grew it from there. But I just want to emphasize, there's serendipity in this. It's not like a railroad track from age 17 where everything laid out for you. There's a lot of stuff happens along the way. And one piece of advice I would offer to you is just be open to that. You don't have to have it all planned out now. Stuff's going to happen in life. Unusual stuff's going to happen. And just take advantage of it. Sometimes it's going to be good stuff, sometimes it's going to be bad stuff. A lot of bad stuff has happened to me along the way. I'm sure it has. I'm sure there's plenty of war stories up here about bad stuff that's happened along the way. You just got to cope with it. But by coping with it, you get stronger and just I would just say keep going forward. Doesn't matter where forward is, just keep going forward. I could talk about biotech and everything I did, but I'm going to let Stephanie take over.
I've been asked this question a lot. I also arrived in my field in a kind of happenstance way. I studied at Duke University. I studied cultural anthropology and English. I took a few art history classes and I was bored out of my mind. I discovered photography through what's now a very well-known Center for Documentary Studies at Duke. I loved it. I went to New York City in the late 90s and I interned at Aperture Foundation, which still exists, and I was absolutely hooked on art. I also realized how dysfunctional arts nonprofits can be, and knew that if I was going to stay in the field, I wanted to be in charge, that I wanted to make things better, and that I wanted to work with a cross-section of people, including the public, including artists. After I graduated, my father pressured me to take a job at Enron, if you want to. And I did the very sensible thing, which I thought at the time, and I said no, and I went back to New York City, and I was lucky to get a job at the Whitney while Enron crashed. And I just took things step by step. So I took a lot of opportunities that weren't necessarily ideal, and I made them into something. And very carefully built a path. I didn't know where it was going at the time. I just knew that I wanted to get somewhere where I could call the shots and work eventually with artists, which is a long story, but it took me a long time to get there because I didn't have the art history background. I wanted to work very, very hard to build the foundation in history, in art, bringing in anthropology. I had to work very hard to build the trust of people in my field because I wasn't a rubber stamped art historian. And over time, build relationships. Relationships are very important in the art world. But my career sort of evolved out of that. And I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I was wanted to go up.
So there is definitely a theme to this panel so far. And if the question, it's written down here, why did I choose to go into this field? I would say it's actually opposite. My field sort of chose me. I had no idea what I wanted to do. The only things I really knew is what I didn't want to do. And it was really sort of a narrow view of the world. I just said, I don't want to go to med school. And I don't like numbers, so I don't think I want to go to business school. So that left me in undergrad as a philosophy of poli-sci double major with a piano minor because I really thought I was going to switch to a piano major because I really wanted to be a pianist. And I decided not to do that, and then I got to the end of college, and as great as philosophy and poli-sci would really lead to an obvious career, and I still knew I didn't want to go to med school. And so I thought, I process of elimination, I guess I'll go to law school. I did. I went to law school. I had no plan, didn't know if I wanted to work at a law firm. I knew I didn't want to do litigation. So not many people go to law school thinking they don't want to be a litigator. I didn't even really know what the options other than litigation were. But it just sort of seemed like an op-ed, like the path to take, and so I took it. So when you're in law school, it's a 3-year program. You interview at the end of your first year to get an internship between your second and third year that ideally leads to your permanent job. I got rejected from every single law firm that I applied to, including the law firm that I've been at for the last 22 years that have their framed in my office. The New York office said, no thank you, you seem like a great kid, but no thanks. And so did every other law firm that in Boston and in New York that I applied to. So I ended up taking a summer job at Reebok at their world headquarters, doing basically a legal internship, which I knew wasn't going to lead to a job because corporations, they don't really want to train lawyers, right? So they'll hire you for the summer, pay you a little bit, but it's not really a stepping stone to a job. So I did what is unthinkable in law school, which is interview as a third year to try to find a job. Most people already had their jobs at that point, and I got a job in a corporate department at a law firm, and I ended up getting stuck in the private equity group, and I didn't know what private equity was. I had never heard the phrase, even in law school. I think that's changed a little bit now. And I just said, sure, I'll do it. It's not litigation, sounds good to me. It's not piano, but I guess I'll still do it. And 22 years later, I'm still doing it, and actually I really love it. I love more than the industry and what I do, which is, to boil it down, I help private equity funds buy and sell companies, and I help those companies buy and sell themselves. I like doing that, but I actually just really love the people that I work with, and that sort of, the industry is great, but the people are even greater, and so I'm still there.
I will follow along with this idea of serendipity. And so in high school, I actually was convinced that I would be a writer. I loved writing. I loved working in the school newspaper, all of that. And my parents, when it came time to apply for college, they're like, let's rethink this because we don't want to support you for the rest of your life. So I actually ended up applying to Caltech, and I got in. And went to visit, and really was so impressed with the school, with what they were doing, and also kind of bonded with the potentially incoming freshman class, that I went down that path and went into science and engineering just head on. And I have to say, I wasn't, so there was, at that school, there's like a group of people that could solve equations in their sleep. I mean, they were so brilliant. And then there was like the bunch of us that would pull all-nighters and work really, really hard. I was in that group. I pulled a lot of all-nighters. I got through it. And then at the time when I graduated, Silicon Valley was a happening thing. And I ended up getting a job there and met just an incredible manager. He was kind of an industry leader in his field and basically trained and taught me everything that I know about mechanical modeling and how it could be used as a design tool in that industry, and also how it could be used for kind of invention and innovation. And I thought, the writing will come back later, maybe in a second career. And what do you know? It's come back. So now my current role, MathWorks, actually, they came to me and they kind of presented this package that combined everything that I was interested in. It combined science and engineering, writing, design, and this new interest that I had in data science and machine learning and AI. And so, yes, I ran with it, and I'm having just a blast there. So I'm kind of entering my second career fun.
How did I end up here? I don't know if the statute of limitations are up on how I really started off in construction, but it was my junior to senior summer. I got a job doing demolition in a hotel in Boston. And at 17, I loved it. I was just with a jackhammer all day, sneaking selfies when nobody was looking. And then fast forward to my senior year, come back after working that construction job. COVID happened. I was thinking about going to UMass Boston for criminal justice. My mother always wanted me to be a state trooper because I guess there was some height requirement, and I guess I met it at the time. I'm pretty glad that didn't pan out. I started off working as a laborer for the tea and for that hotel I mentioned, and then I got into the plumbers union in Boston. And I knew in high school when COVID started that I didn't want to sit at a desk, or I didn't want to sit at home trying to learn all the material because I knew it wasn't for me. And then fast forward, I'm in a hospital doing life-saving medical gases, vacuum systems, stuff like that for all the patients. And then fast forward again, I'm back in that hospital I was building when I was 18, visiting my grandmother but she was just in one of the rooms, and I had never seen it finished. It was very, very nice to go back there and see it. I have family that are also in the plumbers union. My father's the VA for unit I'm in. My brother, he's more the office guy. He does the drawing, prints and stuff like that. And then, like I said, my cousin who just got in is working with me at the job we're at right now, which is a lab. We do a lot of labs. Somerville, Cambridge, Boston area. How do I tell you? I mean, cool. But I'm glad I got it. I love what I do, like everybody else out here. Every day I give it my all, and I come home, and I'm very happy.
So how did I get here? Okay, so like everybody else, I did not have a straight path. I actually started thinking I wanted to work as a therapist, but then kind of wasn't really sure about it when I was going into college. So I did something that is, I think, very possibly quite unique to the US in university, and that's start out without a major. I think like in a lot of different countries, you just can't do that. You're supposed to decide when you're 15 or 16 or 17 what you're going to do for the next decades of your life. But I'm grateful to have had the opportunity to not, supposed to know that at that time. So I went into university in Wisconsin without a major, and first generation students. I didn't have a ton of guidance there, but that's okay. I'm glad I figured it out. So I settled down after changing majors a few times. I was going to be a voice major, and I decided I did not have the confidence to be able to make that happen. So I switched to sociology, and I studied abroad as much as I possibly could, which I highly, highly recommend. If you can get out of your bubble, if you can see a different perspective, absolutely do that. And so I graduated with an undergrad in sociology, and I didn't really know what I could do with that. And so I started to look at my interests. I thought about Peace Corps. There were some limitations to that, and so I found a program that was somehow intermingled with that, and it was focusing on something called intercultural relations. That's what brought me to Boston, which it was at Leicester University. That's now no longer a program, but I started working after that as an international student advisor, which I loved, and I really enjoyed meeting the international community. And I'm just an extremely curious person. I want to know about all of your backgrounds. I know everything about all of you, but I know that's not going to happen. So when I was an international student advisor, I loved the work, but I just didn't really feel a sense of the people around me kind of as passionate about supporting the students as I was. And so I wanted to find a job that allowed me to really get to know people and also be in some sort of a helping role that just comes back from, influence of probably parents and teachers. So I spent about 6 months while working at Berkeley as an international student advisor, going to a cafe in the North End, the Thinking Cup. It's since moved, but I've gone back in a celebratory way when I moved back to Boston as a psychologist. I sat there for about 6 months on like Saturday or Sunday in the same spot with my laptop, and I just looked at the work that was interesting to me, and then the people who were doing it, and the publications that they made, or where they went to school. And that's how I figured out that I wanted to go into clinical psychology. And so I started to look all around the world for where I could go. I did not want to be in the US, but I did end up going to the most international university I could find in San Francisco. and it's the most diverse staff and very possibly most diverse student body for a clinical psychology program in the U.S. And studied abroad while I was in that program. At that point, I knew who I now married to the person that I was dating at the time, and so I knew that I wanted to kind of funnel into between Mexico. And so I focused my work, my research on the intercultural community, and also had plans to go to Mexico. So I had for at least 4 years, I had a plan. It wasn't that way the whole time, but I would do the academics during the school year, and then go to Mexico during summers, and had a great experience there. And then after I graduated, I went to Mexico for 10 years, and didn't have a penny to my name. And I was studying for a test that I had passed in my field, and was looking around at the economy and thought, I don't know what I can do here to survive financially. So I started a private practice there, just out of necessity, out of financial necessity. And I'm happy that I did. I would not have done that. My nature is not to, all the pumping up to be a leader in the 90s in the United States. That doesn't mesh with my personality. So I'm very happy to be working among people, but apparently I was in a situation where I started this private practice, and it was really awesome to just see that I could do that in another country. My husband paid for my first, the rent for my office for my first month, and after that I pretty much was on my own, and that pressure really helped me to move myself forward, and I am grateful for it. And I got to meet a lot of people from all over the world in Mexico City, and so somehow those interests of knowing people, knowing cultures, they just there was a magnetism. They came to me, or I sought them out. So now, even though I was in that country, I was working with people from all over the world, which is super cool. And then just life circumstances brought us here after the pandemic in Mexico City for what felt like 12 years in the pandemic. A city of 23 million, with a very small yard, felt a little claustrophobic. And so we kind of realized we could work virtually. My husband is with kids tonight, but he is a music production engineer and works in TV and movies, and we both realized in the pandemic that we could work virtually, so we had, the world was our oyster, and we looked around and kind of went city shopping, country shopping in our minds or virtually, and ended up in a place that he was very passionate about, the US. And so came back to Boston, my fourth time moving back, and Boston area, and now I'm just continuing on and trying to reconnect with the international community here. And basically whatever kind of finds me, like in my field, there's so many different things to do. So you have people reaching out, like, are you interested in writing this? Are you interested in doing a workshop? Are you interested in traveling to speak to a population that's just gone through some sort of a crisis? So these are all things that are opportunities within my field. So that's really exciting. That's how I got here. Long story.
And Ms. Green, anything to say about how and why you got into your fields?
Yeah, hello everybody. Again. So I started first as, I got my bachelor's actually in criminal justice. At first I thought I wanted to be a police officer or a probation officer, but what shined more is the love of kids. I love being around kids. And just with that thought of how I can really help families with kids. As long as I'm inside the daycare, I'm happy already. kids, being around kids. So then I also got a job, and I was looking for a job. Actually, my actual supervisor didn't see anything. My supervisor gave me a phone call, and I was like, okay, let me think about it. She literally recruited me. I love the environment, working with her, and the change that I see in my clients do. They come in with, of course, you have to be homeless, right? You know, be qualified to be in Horizons. Then after that, I focus more on parenting, you know, inside of the daycare. I focus more on parents to be able to help them. I don't know if you guys been in certain crises where, especially if you live in one room with 2 other kids and you share bathroom, you share kitchen, and that this job actually helped me to just to realize how blessed I am and how much I have. And again, just making the change every day coming in and meeting with them, because they have to meet with me twice a month, sometimes even more. But with 30-minute coaching, I also do with mentors, reminding them that this is going to pass. You are here, it's going to get better, you know, and just providing them how important it is to connect with other parents as well. I actually started with the Family Project, which is a group that meets once a month, and where everybody comes in, or Spanish-speaking parents come in and sit down and go over, you know, legal services, free legal services, anything to do with whatever the topic that they have. But I think it's so important to find a community and find that they do fit in. And the reason why I say this is because many of my parents, they actually have kids who they had to leave in their country to come here to even better, right? So they feel like, okay, they might be the only one going through something. So when these groups they meet once a month, and they get so, they talk about what's happened, of course, confidential, everything they talk about here, this space here. And it feels so much better. And there's also a clinic right on the 3rd floor that they have a therapist for them to, if they choose to, go ahead and speak to somebody. So, yeah, I think pretty much. I also I go inside the classrooms, but not as much as I would like, to read a book, volunteer to read a book to them. And yeah, I focus more on parents, but it's great.
So for this next bit, we're just going to do more of like a discussion. So we'll read the questions, and then if you guys just want to jump in, like maybe we'll do a few panelists just answering each question. So we'll go straight to them. How do you foresee your field changing in the next 5, 10, or 25 years? What impact does or will AI have?
I can start off with that one since I'll answer the AI question at least. So I feel like in the near future, AI really serves as kind of a tool to get busy work out of the way, to lay groundwork so that humans can kind of take the next step in what they want to do, what they want to think about. You know, I mean, this has been kind of a trend in history. You have these tools that help you do your work better so that you can get on to the more important things. AI really is, what it comes down to is that AI is essentially math. It's just statistics and probability. And once you understand that, the mystery of AI is kind of taken away so that you can really use it just to kind of progress your own work.
I'm going to jump off of that because I completely agree, my field. So I don't think there's always going to be change in any field. Yes, there will be change. Is AI totally going to take over? No, because a lot of what we do is very hands-on. But AI is a wonderful tool to use in many areas. I'm going to speak specifically for what I do, because I, as a speech pathologist, you can, there's a huge umbrella, and you can either go towards a cognitive piece, or, you know, what you think of like stuttering and articulation, or voice disorders, you know, someone with a stroke, things like that, or you're language-based. So, like, there's a debates about like ChatGPT and things like that. It's a wonderful tool in the sense of like, again, a tool is saving time. When we sit down and have to take a language sample of a kid and you're writing notes about it, you gotta write what they're saying, you gotta take your side notes, with that you can open it, it takes it down, you know, it's a tool to help you interpret what's happening, and it's useful. And I think, you know, I also work during the day as an academic support person at a school, and I find that, you know, when Quizlet came out and like all these new tools that are coming out, at first it was like, oh my gosh, like this is like cheating, or this is like no. But if we learn how to use these tools that are coming out slowly and teach others how to use it appropriately, I think it's a wonderful piece, and that shouldn't be feared. And to tap into, like, this is part of education, right? You can't just, oh, here's this new piece of technology, I'm just going to use it. Well, you got to really know how to use it, and that's where education comes in, schooling, or experiences, mentors that can teach you how to use them and when to use them appropriately.
I can jump in really quickly too, from the legal field. One of the things that you know, AI is definitely something that a lot of the big law firms are looking at and considering, and have software engineers, you know, delving into. But one of the, I can't answer how it's going to impact the industry, other than to say that I know it will. But I can give you one big concern that my field has, which is client confidentiality, right? Because, and I'm sure I'm not describing this accurately, but from what I understand, you know, an AI machine, that's probably the wrong word, it learns from the information that you feed it, right? And so for us, what's the information, what do my clients care about? They care about industry trends. They care about what happened in the last 5 deals to help guide maybe a decision they might make on what's market for this next deal, right? But the information that you feed into the AI machine is all confidential client information, right? So how do we do that in a way that we can take advantage of AI and not fall behind our competitors without breaching the confidentiality obligations that every client who hires me or anyone at my firm has? I don't have the answers, I'm just throwing out questions, but just to give you an idea of things that lots of people in my industry are thinking about. That's a big one.
I'll piggyback on that. So in my industry, which touches screenwriters, it touches filmmaking, there's a lot of concern about copyright. We might be putting a lot of lawyers in business when it comes to visual images, artistic language. You're already seeing major cases being handed out, or judgments being handed around copyright from back, issues back in the 80s. I do think from a nonprofit perspective, the current tools can be very helpful in supporting lean nonprofits. So I have colleagues who plan donor trips using ChatGPT, because you can put in, I'm going to Istanbul, I need a hotel by this restaurant, in walking distance to this museum, and they can get all of that. And the downside or the trade-off is that they are not hiring someone to do that work. So there isn't an intern who can learn or be mentored by that person within the institution. That role is being replaced by AI, but the trade-off is that there's more money in this, in my colleague's case, for artists.
Just going off what you were saying about law and confidentiality or privacy, same thing in my field. It's a concern. Is how do we help people using this technology without creating a vulnerable situation where people don't feel like they can, their information is safe. But AI is already being used in my field. I mean, everybody look down at your arm if you have a watch on. You can download the Calm app, or you can look at the Health app, And there's, with the Garmin, is it Garner? Okay, there's another watch brand, not this one, Garmin, thank you, where they can, it's better technology right now for looking at stress levels. So I have clients who have these watches and we can map out their day, what was happening. Oh, your stress level peaked here. Oh, you're not getting a lot of restful sleep. What can we do to adjust that? Your stress level went up. Oh, you were having a conversation with your spouse. Okay, you can talk about that. And also just in my field, it's right now it's considered a healthcare crisis, especially after the pandemic. Stigma is going down, at least in this country, in your country, and a few other countries. And stigma is going down for mental health care, and so usage is going up. Some people are so much in crisis that the stigma is irrelevant. They're seeking out healthcare, and there's not enough providers. I suspect several of you in this room or someone in your family is on the waiting list to see a therapist right now. And so AI can help with that. There are apps for chatting to help guide through simple things like good sleep hygiene, so helping someone change behaviors to improve their mental health. There is technology to perceive things that humans cannot. Changes in their voice, potential for relapse, if someone is struggling with substance abuse. It can help with diagnosis, with treatment planning, maintenance, and access, like I was saying. So it's helpful. And my field, not my branch, but people who are doing research, who are doing neurological research are contributing to AI, probably along with a lot of engineers. I don't know the stuff on the back end of that. But hopefully it'll all work together to improve our human experience.
I think I can relate to that. I think in the industrial sector, it will be a big game changer. You have to imagine when we have machines to produce cable, the machine will be twice the size of this room for one operator. We tried 5-6 years ago to do machine learning, and after 3 years, the company that was working with us gave up. But there were 170 parameters, and they said it's too complex. We can't understand, what makes it good or not good. For an operator to run such machine, it's 5 to 10 years to master it, to understand. And I strongly believe that the AI will help to manage complexity. It will bring you the right information you need. It will help to focus where you have to focus. And I definitely think that it will help to bring more sense to what you're doing. If you're just pressing a button and doing the same thing for 8 hours, it's not really something that makes sense. If you end up understanding what the impact of this, and then you can improve things, you can, what to do, where to focus, how to improve things, I think the pride you get, the engagement you have from your work is different. And in that sense, AI is a great tool where I do have a lot of expectation to help improving not only the efficiency and the cost and everything, but also the engagement of the people, because I really think it will bring more sense to what you're doing. That's one. Second thing is, my company is European. We're a French company. We start this plant where I am in Providence because our customer is booming here in the US, and they wanted local production to have shorter lead time. The ocean does not look that big, but trust me, when you're importing containers, it's a pain in the neck, really. You end up with doing assumptions because you've got 4 to 6 weeks to import things. And having tools that will help you to have the right information at the right moment, not only in the plant, but also dealing with your suppliers, dealing with a very complex and ambiguous world, will help a lot. But then if I know a trend, like the transit time might be longer, or increase my stock of raw material or whatever, I don't have a crystal ball today. I don't think that will be a crystal ball, but I think that will help to know where to focus, not only in the plants, also in the offices.
Given this rise in AI, what sort of skills or knowledge do you think will be required of future employees in your lines of work?
I might be a little bit of an outlier. But there's not much that AI affects my day-to-day work. As of right now, and I don't see it changing much in the next 10, 15 years, for at least what we do in the field. I mean, obviously there's going to be some changes in the office, like what my brother does drawing. But I don't think, kind of circling back to what you were saying over there about the reward in your work, like that was one of the big changes I wanted from going to be like, that jackhammering 17-year-olds to becoming a plumber, is that thinking on your feet, coming to a problem, and then having to solve that problem. And I think even if there was an effective way to incorporate AI into that, it would take away a lot of that reward in the work that I do. So,
I think just going through that, even with working with AI, I think you still have to have very good critical thinking skills. Because with AI, with machine learning, if you train your model on bad data, you're going to get bad results. It's like this garbage in, garbage out sort of train of thought. So you have to be able to figure out, are you giving it good information? Is your data good? And you have to figure out, is AI giving me the right information back? Is it biased? All these things that you really have to have these critical thinking skills to be able to decide where to go.
So I can just answer that. Excuse me. So I'm in biotech, and the traditional answer to that question, what skills you need, is 3. You need a PhD, you need an MD, and you need an MBA. Right? That's it. And that's what the vast majority of people in the industry have one of those 3. Some have 2. I even know 2 who have all 3. One even has an MD, PhD, and MBA from Harvard University, right? She's probably about 45 by the time she got a job. But that's sort of the traditional answer to your question, right? What are the skills? Those will be the same 20 years from now as they are today. I don't care what happens to AI, it's not going to make any difference. The FDA is not going to accept an AI-generated ChatGPT report in a clinical trial. It's not going to happen, right? So you're still going to need the scientists, the doctors, and the MBAs to raise the money to get it all done. But I think it's much more interesting to look at the cross-cutting skills, not the MD, MBA, PhD ones. We'll look at it this way. And just like you were saying, critical thinking versus analysis is the same thing. Like, how do you sort out all these good ideas that are going to be flooded with by ChatGPT? It's been a million ideas. How are you going to decide which one's the best? Which one are you going to work on? Someone's got to do the critical thinking, and ChatGPT is not a critical thinker. It's a large language model. It spouts out Shakespeare, but it's not only thinking about Shakespeare or the words or what the plot is or who the characters are or what they're trying to do. So I think those cross-cutting skills, which I think critical analysis, critical thinking is one of them. I would suggest another one is actually creativity, because ChatGPT may sound like it's very creative, but if you tell ChatGPT to write a bunch of songs like Taylor Swift, they're all going to sound like Taylor Swift. They're not going to be as good. So it's going to be, how do you take ordinary stuff and make it exceptional? And that's what you're all going to be doing. Taking the ordinary stuff that's output by ChatGPT and making it exceptional. So I think creativity is one, analysis is another, and I'll just throw in 2 others, which are, you're not going to get anything done by yourself. So you've got to organize people to do stuff. Well, that's not ChatGPT. That's hiring people, training people, motivating people. It's nothing to do with ChatGPT or AI. Those are traditional management skills. And the final one is communication. Again, you can't get it on your own. You've got to communicate with other people. You've got to lead a team of people. You've got to have customers or patients or employees, whatever it is you've got. There's going to be a team of people doing this. And if you want to get anything done, you've got to coordinate and manage that team of people. So I think if you look at it this way, it's MD, MBA, PhD. You look at it this way, and it's creativity, analysis, communication, and organization.
So, moving on, what recommendations do you all have for students who wish to pursue a career in your fields?
I think it's great for students to ask questions. The people in the community, for instance, in my field, I would talk to students and the public all the time because the arts it's a pretty unusual field. It's a very narrow field. And, I think asking questions, understanding what the options are. When I went into the field, I really had no idea. I didn't know what a curator was. A curator then was a very different thing than it is now. I didn't have anyone to ask, and I wish I had more mentorship at the early stages. Also so that I could learn what the trade-offs were. Like I was willing to go out there and take risks, and I wasn't really thinking about what I wanted long-term as much as I wish I would have, because there are trade-offs to every industry. I think we've all ended up in a great place, but it's important to have mentors and have people you can talk to as you're going along the way.
Add on to something that Elizabeth said, the concept of knowing what you want to do when you're in high school. We were out in California for spring break, and we were college touring, and about 20 kids went around and introduced themselves, and about 18 of them knew the major they wanted to do. And Reeve said, I don't know. And I said, Reeves, afterwards, I said, I cannot believe that everyone else here thinks they know what they want to know. And I said, they don't even know what they don't even know. And I would say to the question about, what do you want to do if you want to pursue this career? I would say just try things. Try and see what feels good to you. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're stuck in a career or in a path that you don't want to be in, you have one life to live, and it's not worth it. It's not worth doing something you wake up, feel jazzed about, and excited about, and feel that you're doing something good. So be open, and I love that concept. I wish the education system here would treat it the same way. Unfortunately, higher ed in the States, it is very much, hey, well, the second semester of your freshman year, you better know what you want to do. Lucky for me, I did want to do finance. I knew I wanted to do finance. And I'm grateful for the fact that that was something that was good for me, and I got into that field. And I use finance every single day. I couldn't do what I do if I didn't know numbers and how to put deals together, put deal teams together, and raise capital, and to build plans. That's what I do because of that foundation. But it starts with doing what you love and knowing. And if you don't know what you love, that's okay. Just try. See what you do.
Yeah, and I think definitely, going back to the previous question, that to me, one of the major things following AI is you have to learn to adapt. I think we'll all change career more after AI, because jobs that exist today will not exist tomorrow, and jobs that do not exist today will exist tomorrow. I can certainly imagine that you will end up doing two jobs at the same time. Things that we see as two different jobs today will be under one umbrella tomorrow. And that's a little bit like we all say, being curious and like dare, go for it, try. Because at the end of the day, I am sure that the career path in 20 years will be very different from the career path of our parents, or even from us. And that's the point. I mean, flexibility and learning how to learn fast. Because you will have to learn new job, new skills, new things, which, as you mentioned in the introduction, we don't even know today. And I'm absolutely convinced that if you don't dare, if you just stay in your comfort zone and you know what you know, that's okay. Well, okay, but you will lose so much opportunity, and you might end up in a dead end at the end, because things will move fast anyway.
Ms. Rand, do you have that?
Yeah, I just wanted to, real quick, with what it would change in 5, 10, 15 years. I think that for sure, especially those family advocates who have parents that speak English, would be able to help minimize, of course, homelessness is never going to end. That's just what I've seen. The homeless might minimize the rate of homelessness, so that they helping parents who have their GED school for our citizens, and we would go back to school, we go back to school to get a better job and be able to afford housing. But yeah, and with the other questions, I would say about you guys to volunteer if you can, being able to, if none of the summer's coming up, see what you can do, where you can go in. Also YouTube videos, watching, type in, well, what does a therapist or whatever, a day in a therapist or a day in one of the jobs that in the panelists, and just shadow somebody as well if you have that opportunity to do.
Okay, so looking back in your K-12 education careers, what experiences have you had that have been most powerful in your impact in your success in college or your career or your life? And what, if anything, do you wish had been different in that time?
Well, I would say, just jumping off of what was just shared, is that I also, while I was working in preschool, met a mom who was a speech pathologist in a hospital setting, and I was allowed time to shadow her. And that really opened up my eyes to even another area of the speech world, and just really getting that experience of watching and learning, interacting with families. And I think that was something that definitely during my college years that I think definitely benefited, because I got my undergrad degree in special education, K-12. And I probably would have stayed, even though I knew I always wanted to help, I probably would have stayed in that realm if I didn't have this moment of come and shadow, come and see. So I think that's, I hate to say it, probably was more beneficial than the actual going to school and classes. You should definitely go to school and classes. But that hands-on experience and storytelling from families and other workers and physical therapists that were there, and occupational therapists that were there, and even the billers at the hospital, and the receptionist, and even guard. All of that information, all of that interaction really felt like an aha learning experience. So I said that's what I took most out of my college and my externships that I had in college. So all that hands-on stuff that was out there doing it.
But let me just add to that, because I have a remarkably similar story about a moment in time which I can place exactly where I was and when it happened. That changed everything. And I was a physicist studying physics with labs, and there were groups with two people would work on a problem, and then there were 20 or 30 different experiments around the room, a bit like Mr. Bridges' classroom, if you sort of and I had a moment where I looked around the room, and I realized no one in the room was my friend. And that really bothered me. All my friends were elsewhere. They were English students or lawyers, but there were none that were physicists. I realized that maybe I wasn't cut out to be a physicist after all. And maybe I better look for something interesting. And I happened to be, the guy I was actually working with had done a job before he went to university, which was very unusual back in my day. The doctor who went from high school directly to college didn't normally work first, but he had worked first. And he said, well, why don't you come with me? We've got this organization tonight where some speakers from industry are coming in. I went to listen to that, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And that's what took me into business. So I had a similar kind of moment, call it serendipity, I don't know what it was. It was a moment of realization where I wasn't actually comfortable where I was. And you look for something new. And if there's one theme I think we've heard over and over again this evening, it's follow the people. Follow the people you like, who you enjoy working with. I think almost everyone has said something like that, one way or another. As opposed to have some destination in mind that you're going to be heading for. That's sort of fair.
The feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
like your feeling, because you're going to be doing this for a long time.
I have something that probably will not be popular with parents, but I'm going to say it anyway. So when I was an international student advisor, I happened to be interviewing students when I was in Greece, and they were applying to music students, and they were, the students who weren't from the US were like 22, 23, 24 rather than 17, 16, 17. And that's because a lot of them had been pressured by their family to go into certain fields. And you said no to what your dad pressured you to do. Our parents want the best for us, and they might not know everything that kind of is in your heart or what your interests are. And so exposing yourself to different opportunities and maybe even taking a year off after high school to get a job, explore the world, getting accepted into a university and deferring would probably make your parents feel more comfortable. But if you are interested if you want to be a musician and your parents are pushing you to be a lawyer, have a conversation with them. My husband is a musician, and his father is an engineer, his grandfather is an engineer, and he sat down and had a conversation like an adult with his dad and found a way to get, funding to go to university in another country in a field completely opposite of what 2 generations before had done. And so it takes a lot of bravery, it takes a lot of knowing yourself. And if you don't know yourself, it's okay, but just do different internships, do different jobs. Thankfully, if you're going to school in the United States, you can switch majors. I think the average last time I read the statistic was in the US, we switch careers, not jobs, 5 times. And that probably, like you were saying, Pamela, that will probably change more with the influx of technology. So flexibility, trying to get to know yourself. Your parents are doing the best they can, and try to explore the world. See what you want.
I'd like to answer something about this question, because I employ a lot of my staff are first-time job to 21, 22 years old. This is the majority of the people that work for our company. And while the rise of technology and everything from Google to AI is making things quicker, in a way it's also making people dumber. Because there's books upstairs, right, that we used to read, where we try to just make a little library. And unfortunately, what in many ways technology has made is it's made us lazy and it's made us not critical thinkers. And to answer the question about what would I wish I had better in school, and not just for me but for everyone, especially the people that are younger, that are getting into the workforce now, especially first job people, it's resiliency. It's what happens, and I think COVID helped us. It helped people find out that you have a path, and that path just gets torn up. So sometimes you have to know how to deal with that, right? And in many ways, what I see, and this is not something I'm proud of, I'm telling everybody here because I want everyone to understand this. Sometimes when you're faced with a problem that you don't know how to resolve it, and you don't have your phone and you can't look at the answer, you go, oh no, what do I do? And one of our core competencies, and both Reeves and Michaela both know this, but the word is limitlessness, right? We talk about being limitless, which means if you don't have the answer, you keep finding it, you keep looking, you keep searching until you can find out what it means to get the job done. And I would implore upon the education system in Dover-Sherborn, be a leader as you are in everything. We need to teach, and we talk about the whole student, the portrait of the student, and I'm assuming it's back on there. I should have looked here in the back before I said this, but I think it needs to have an element of being able to manage through difficulties, because life's going to throw curveballs at you whether you like it or not, and you need to be able to adapt and adjust and execute. And if you can't do that, it's a reason why we have a mental health crisis in America, because people aren't properly equipped with how to deal with things going on.
In my field, from the beginning of my career until this day, I sit on the board of a few organizations. always engaged with, I guess what's best described as civil debate, with colleagues, with artists, with board members, in order to come to programs or strategies that best serve the institution or the artist's career that we're managing. And I think the ability to engage, to stand on your own 2 feet, to engage with someone who thinks differently, and to be willing to listen and to be open to changing your mind is imperative. A little sunshine goes a long way. It's very easy. In my experience with lots of different radicals and artists, it's very easy to tear things down. It's very hard to shine a little bit of sunshine to create a path forward. And I think I'm in the arts. I think art is the shared language of humanity. I love it. And I think that the arts is a way to engage people in really interesting ways. But again, being able to listen and engage and debate is, I think, the best thing that I took away from my career. Got knocked down a lot. But I feel that I'm better off for it.
I would like to come back to what you were saying this, with the resilience part. I will share the personal part. I was 26, I was sent to Qatar to start a new plant from scratch. And Qatar 15 years ago, I didn't know where it was. Actually, I think not a lot of people, even today, know where Qatar is. So it's not far from Dubai, if you see. And we were starting this new plant from scratch. I never managed anyone, and from one day to another, I have to recruit and build a team of 25 people. You can imagine we were married for 2 months. She quit her job to follow me to the desert. That was interesting. And after 1 year of working super hard in 14 different nationalities, extremely hard conditions, I was called by my mentor to offer me a dream job in Australia. I was like, whoa. And it was not the right time for her, because she just found a job after struggling for 9 months. She found a job in Doha. So we decided to stay. And I can tell you it was a bumpy road. But eventually, the funny thing is, a year and a half after, he called me again, and I got a job in Melbourne, Australia. So it comes back to resilience. I can tell you, if I give up after 1 year, it's a failure. I have done all this hard work and starting a new plant. You don't see the result now. You see the result after. When I left Qatar, it was my plant. I did that. Not everything was perfect, but it was mine. And I was super happy to say I did that, and I learned, I struggled, I did all of this, but I did that. It's my experience, and now I'm different because I did not give up. I went to the end, and now I can move on. And I'm still super happy I did that, and I stayed when I got this offer.
So, Beth, I would like to suggest 2 skills. I'm talking about skills, not academic curriculum. So I think to your point earlier, I think you teach analysis brilliantly. Like almost every single class, there's some analytical reading, analytical writing, math, physics, even language, like grammar, structure. It's very, very analytical. The kids come out of this school with superb analytical skills. Where I think they're a little bit weak, or at least where they could be stronger, even what we talked about, the volatility, the resilience, the changes that we're facing is, I think brainstorming is a skill that is very learnable and very teachable. And I think it's more and more important. The generation of ideas is more important going forward. And then the thing that terrifies every kid I know is speaking in public. And it's essential to get a lot of people together, to employees or customers or patients, whatever it is. You've got to be able to speak in public. And it's sort of ironic to me. We are taught endlessly in school how to read and how to write. We are never taught how to listen and how to speak. It's just assumed we learned that in kindergarten somewhere. We are never taught to listen and we're never taught to speak. And yet, active listening and public speaking are essential components of success, even today, and I think will be even more so going forward. So that's my advice.
Can I just say this? I was supposed to be at a town hall meeting in North Attleboro tonight, and I had to send somebody in my absence, and she's terrified of public speaking. She needs to speak. And she said, if you ever make me do it, I'm going to quit. And I said, I have to be here, you need to figure this out, you can do it, you can do it. And you're right though, I think people say it's the number one fear, and death is this second fear. More people rather die than public speak, but I agree. To the extent they have a public speaking class, or something like an elective or something along those lines. Yeah.
What else do we need to do as educators?
I took a course in college on public speaking, and it was very helpful. Also, arts programs like drama, theater. I don't know. My kids are little. We just got here. I don't know what's available, but forensics was something that was really important in my life. Helped me. I was in theater. That has made it possible for me to be here today and not cower in fear and being recorded. And also we did Odyssey of the Mind. I don't know if that's a program here in grade school that helps with long-term creativity. Like we had to create a presentation and then also do these short exercises, like speed exercises. And so this, I don't know if it still exists, but it was really helpful with creativity and doing, so the kids who were in Odyssey of the Mind were doing things that my 6th grade teacher said was impossible, since that was. So all those extra programs where kids get up off their tablets, have to interact with each other, help them learn to use the phone. There is a major fear of adolescents and young adults using the phone, and I don't know what that's going to mean for society, but somehow interpersonal communication is something really, I think, to work on.
Thank you. Yes, I just wanted to say really quick that I think it's so important to keep in mind in what is it that you enjoy doing, to keep track as well, so by the time that you graduate, you know, you have an idea as to what is it that you enjoy doing, because if we're honest, sometimes we pick careers that makes money, but then isn't making you happy or keeping you sane, right? So I think it's very important to do something that you enjoy doing, and because you're going to be in it 8 to maybe 10 hours a day, and you definitely want to make sure that you are enjoying it. So yeah.
Is there anything else you guys would like to share?
I would add just one little tidbit, which is whatever you do and wherever you are in the path to get to what your career is, it can be a long winding path, believe me, but it's sort of a crass phrase, but it's easy to remember. Just you live here, you give here. Just to find a way, wherever you are in that journey for your career, to be doing something to engage with your community more broadly, and it sounds like it's a one-way street, but it's very much a two-way street, and it will just help you figure out what you want to do. It'll help you figure out your career, and you're actually helping people. And like for me, intellectually that's easy to digest, but it can be hard to sort of do, right? I was very head down, like I need to do this, I need to do that, I'm like super busy, I want to, I have a lot of work to do, whatever, I need to exercise, I need to this, but when you like pick your head up and look around and you realize there's a whole community that you can engage with, that you can help, and it actually helps you. It's just, my recommendation is to come to that realization earlier than I did, because it'll just make the path a lot more fun, and you're actually contributing to the big wide world around you. It can be really easy to feel like you have to like lock yourself into your classes and your grades and figuring out what your major is and figuring out what your internship is, and you do have time to pick your head up and engage with the community, and it'll just make the whole journey a lot more fun.
And to the high school students who are at that point in their high school career thinking about the next step, I mean, you guys all know this, but I'm going to just say it for the record since we're on camera. A lot of colleges these days they look at grades. They want to know you care about your education, and a lot less are looking at test scores, SAT, things like that. They want to look at the whole student, right? They want to see people who are experienced. And a lot of times, one of the first questions I ask when we're hiring somebody is, I ask, I asked the question how old they were, which is not, you're not supposed to, but I asked that question because I want to know how long they've been around, what have they done, what experience have they had. Our parents had one job, they worked at the same plant, for 40 years and then they died, right? So this generation up here, it's, there are people who are working, changing careers, as you said, 5 times. I have no idea what you guys are probably going to do 20 times you're going to change your careers. But what I mentioned that because you need to look at and think about your time here in high school and find out, what are the things that can make me more, broaden my scope and to see that I'm not just individually, it's focused on one thing. Because colleges and employers in the community that you're going to be ending up in eventually one day, they want to see people who have a broad range of experience.
If I could just sort of build on that, really. So I think if you look at all the people up here, my conclusion is there's a bunch of happy people up here, right? There's a really high energy, positive group of people. Most of them never met each other before, so in terms of random people. And we all got here almost exactly the same way. It was trial and error. Right? I don't think anybody here has said, I set out, knowing exactly what I want to do. We want change, create like we've got to be resilient on the setbacks. Perhaps having a direction to go in might make sense. You got manufacturing. That was a place for you. Science has always been a calling for me. There might be a direction to go in, but then you just got to roll with the punches. Take a bit of a dance partners on the floor, because that's going to happen to you. So that seems to me that almost everybody's story here has been, we got happy through trial and error.
And take advantage, there's a panel here, there's others in the community, for high schoolers and middle schoolers. Tap in, ask Shadow, what does her neighbor do? Is he a gardener? Shadow for a day. You have us, you can ask for contact information, come shadow. I don't just help kids speak or read, we do movement, and I teach them how to be active listeners and regulate. There's so many, yes, it's a title, but we do so many other things. And I run a business, there's a math piece of it, so send an email, shadow for a day if it's allowed. It might not be allowed depending on the company, but why not? Go, if you're in the supermarket, ask a manager, can I shadow? Take that extra step, because that's how you're going to see other things that are out there. That would be my biggest recommendations.
So I can sit here all night and listen to you, and unfortunately that's not possible. Stephanie, do you want to just finish up with one thing?
Jen, my father instilled in me a sense of not being above any work task. And I don't mean picking up someone's dry cleaning or a cup of coffee, but I have hired a lot of interns, a lot of employees for the last 15 years, and I've noticed a lot of increasing level of entitlement when it comes to coming into a job in my field, being able to curate, being able to speak with artists, being able to make books off the bat. It takes time to gain a skill, to master a skill. Also, I do think a lot of my success has been based on the fact that I was willing to go learn Excel, learn things I didn't do well. I wasn't waiting for someone to teach me, and I didn't try to pass the buck off to somebody else.
Well, thank you to Julia and Debbie for joining us. I want to say thank you to all of you. I love you all. Lots of degrees up here, including one from Dover-Sherborn, which I think might be the most important. But I can always earn an honorary degree from the Stanford School of Challenge Success, because everything challenge success would tell us, and all 7 competencies that are for to graduate, you articulate. So I didn't do that on purpose. I don't know if we studied, to get brownie points, but problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, communication, collaboration, empathy, and case literature. We did that now. So thank you for reinforcing the work that our schools are doing. Thank you for being parents and engaged citizens yourself. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a good night. Thank you.
The library has to close, so if everybody please exit through these doors. That would be